Welcome to tonight's EllieMD educational series. My name is Janet Jones, and I'm the Director of Operations here at EllieMD. Unfortunately, Honey's not able to be here tonight with us, and I understand I have very big shoes to fill, so I hope I can make her proud and make you guys feel just as excited and welcome to be here. So, as you all know, we're here to continue our mission to support healthier, longer lives. At EllieMD, we're more than just a telehealth company. We offer education, community, and innovative healthcare solutions to guide you on your wellness journey. Tonight, we're diving into the essential role in achieving lifelong success with GLP-1s. As most of you know, what you eat plays a major role in your health, metabolism, and long-term results. And to help us break it all down, we have two incredible experts joining us. I don't have my sidekick with me, but they are a big duo team. I'm just getting to know them. They work together for quite some time, 1,200 hours for internship. But first, we have Erin Jaclyn, a registered dietitian nutritionist who specializes in GLP-1 nutrition, eating disorders, and metabolic health. She helps individuals build a healthier relationship with food and take sustainable, science-backed approach to weight management. And joining her is Jaclyn Savage, also a registered dietitian, nutritionist, content creator, and advocate for gut health, longevity, and sustainable nutrition. After personally navigating Crohn's disease, she became passionate about helping others heal through nutrition and now shares science-backed strategies that make healthy eating simple and achievable. Erin Jaclyn, welcome. Let's just get started in sharing a little bit about your background, what led you to your career in nutrition, and why you're so passionate specifically about supporting GLP-1 patients.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so a little bit about my background. I've been in the nutrition field for about 12 years with food service management and working in healthcare. My main role is in clinical nutrition informatics, which is super techy. But in the evenings, I work in private practice where I'm able to focus on eating disorders, disordered eating, and now GLP-1 nutrition. I'm very passionate about GLP-1 nutrition, and this is kind of how Jaclyn and I started working on this together because it's personal. I have a family member who was on the medication, and I just noticed is eating less and not eating exactly what is going to help for sustainable results. And I just got worried about, weight cycling and it just being another diet. So became very passionate about it in that way, and wanted to be able to help other patients understand nutrition, let it be simple, let it be get down to the basics, but then provide the appropriate information to kind of help the results to be sustainable, and then you have it long term. It's not just another diet where you're gonna cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I've been a dietitian for almost 4 years now, and I got into nutrition at a young age, more for like fitness and weight loss, and then that led to inflammation and gut health when I was diagnosed with Crohn's. So that's kind of my main focus is gut health, anti-inflammatory foods, and longevity. And then, Erin kind of covered why we both are very interested in GLP-1 nutrition. But yeah, I think one of the main things is longevity and helping people make those lifelong sustainable changes, because it's something that if they're on GLP-1s, they might have not had that experience before. And we want to make sure they do it the right way and they get all the benefits from the medication. And then, they think about what's happening internally and not just what they're going to look like now, but what they're going to look and feel like as they age. So that's a big thing for us too.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you said, kind of like creating habits, because a lot of the time we have so much, I always say this, we have so much mixed information on social media and people telling you this, people telling you that. Like, it's really hard to know who to follow and what, 1 second, like, oat milk is terrible. The next second, almond milk is terrible. Then we got to go to dairy milk. It's like, at this point, I'm just going to drink water. Like, I don't know what to do. So, Yeah, can you touch a little bit about how do GLP-1s impact metabolism and appetite, and what role does nutrition play in complementing these effects?
Yeah, so GLP-1s impact metabolism and appetite in kind of three main ways. So, delayed gastric emptying and gut motility. So, it slows down your digestion. It leads to early satiety when you're eating. And that slowed gut motility also keeps you full for longer after eating and prolongs your satiety or like that feeling of satisfaction. But it also leads to GI side effects that could potentially be like uncomfortable, acid reflux, constipation, that kind of stuff. That happens with the gastric emptying and the gut motility. Another way is appetite suppression. So obviously these medications also act on the brain to decrease your cravings and your hunger, resulting in less food intake, which is usually how most people start losing weight. And then the third way is improved insulin sensitivity. So it enhances your insulin function, which kind of helps regulate your blood sugar and give you, again, that feeling of satiety. And then nutrition can play a role in this because proper nutrition allows for us to stay nourished while maximizing the results. So rather than eating less, kind of what we talked about, we are focusing on well-balanced meals, higher nutritious foods, and eating even when the hunger is low. So making sure we're not skipping meals. Maximizing our nutrition for those small, frequent meals can kind of help mitigate the side effects that can potentially come, but we're still achieving results that you want in the long term. So basically, we're getting the benefits of the medication, maximizing nutrition without becoming malnourished or, wasting away and losing lean muscle mass and all those things that come potentially with the medication.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions about weight loss while on GLP-1 medications?
So one of the biggest misconceptions about weight loss while on GLP-1 meds is that you don't have to worry about nutrition or exercise. Many people assume that because GLP-1s reduce hunger, they can eat whatever they want in smaller amounts, or maybe skip meals, and that they'll see the results they want regardless. Another huge misconception is that GLP-1s are basically the magic fix. But sustainable weight loss still requires a balanced diet, physical activity, and long-term lifestyle changes. Without habit change and proper support, it would be like any other failed, likely weight loss attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And so let's get a little bit more into like hands in the weeds. I just started a GLP-1. Like, what are some steps, like actionable steps, quick fixes, right? Like, we can always, like, if we had a personal chef, right? Like, of course, we can have a perfectly balanced meal all the time. But, like, for your everyday person on the go, what are some quick tips that they can start on day one?
Yeah, so if I had a client come to me, day one GLP-1 journey, we would go back to the basics of understanding nutrition, understanding what our body needs. We're not going to make it super complicated, because that initial basics in nutrition education will go such a long way. It's going to assist you while you're on the medication, but also as you're tapering off, lifelong. It's really going to impact you then. So what I would tell folks is back to the basics. We're going to look at the plate. Okay. So on your plate, half your plate, non-starchy veggies, a fourth of it protein, a fourth of it complex carb, and we're going to have a healthy fat in the meal as well. So very simple, focus on the plate. We're going to focus on higher protein. We're going to focus on getting that fiber in. So it helps with the GI side effects that can sometimes come. So focusing on like 25 to 35 grams of fiber, hydration, small frequent meals. So top four, higher protein, get that fiber in, hydration, small frequent meals.
Mm. And you said non-starchy veggies for those of us that don't know, right? Like my go-to starchy veggie, I'm thinking like potatoes, but like, can you give some examples? Because I have this question. I saw someone say like broccoli is typically like if you start a diet like a chicken, rice, broccoli, right? Is broccoli really something we should be going towards while we're on a GLP-1, or give me some good veggie options?
Yeah, so non-starch, and jump in here if you want to. Some non-starchy veggies that would be great would be like, green beans, zucchini, squash of that nature. Any of your leafy greens are going to be great. Broccoli is great, but because of like the GI side effects, it can produce some gas. So if
Yeah.
you're already kind of uncomfortable with GI and the motility slowing down, maybe you've been constipated a day or two, you might want to steer clear of the broccoli. What else
Or
would you
even
say?
like avoiding it raw, maybe making sure the veggies are cooked instead of having raw veggies. That could help with some of the side effects too.
Mhm.
Oh, very
Um,
Specifically, yeah.
yeah.
okay. Wow. I actually didn't know that. Very interesting. Okay. So the next one is going to be protein, right? Everyone talks about protein. How can patients ensure they're getting enough protein while experiencing reduced appetite on GLP-1s?
Yeah, so the American Society of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition actually came out with protein guidelines this past July to help mitigate those negative nutritional issues that might come from taking a GLP-1 medication. We recommend at least 1 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So that's about a little over half a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So some tips for increasing protein intake. A good reminder is that you will be getting fuller faster than usual. So if you can focus on eating the protein on your plate first, that would be a really good place to start. Keeping protein shakes or protein powder on hand for post-workout snack or adding protein to a fruit smoothie for breakfast. If you're having pasta, you can opt for high protein options like lentil or chickpea pasta. Seeds are another really good way to add extra protein to any dish. Um, you could top yogurt with hemp seeds or chia seeds, or add pumpkin seeds to a salad. Hemp seeds are actually a complete protein source for vegans and vegetarians, so that's a really easy way to add ton of protein for just a small amount.
Mm.
Cooking with bone broth is another really good protein hack, using bone broth instead of regular broth. So 1 cup of chicken bone broth has 10 grams of protein versus 1 cup of regular chicken broth might only have 1 to 2 grams of protein. So that adds a significant amount when you're cooking, or you can even sip on bone broth if you like. Um, and then making sure that every meal or snack has a protein present. So, for example, like don't just eat an apple, have Greek yogurt or cottage cheese with it to make it a balanced meal or snack. That really helps.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen recently the sipping bone broth like a tea, right? You just kind of like drink it as a tea.
I love it. I've been doing that for years actually, and I absolutely love it. It's savory. You put it in a mug. It's perfect. It's perfect snack in the winter. You're getting at least 10 grams of protein for 1 cup, so it's really easy way. Add some lemons. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm reading the comments here. I want to make sure we get everybody's questions. Circling back to the broccoli question, LB asks, is cauliflower an okay option, or is that similar situation to the broccoli?
Think cauliflower is the same.
Yeah.
Cauliflower should be okay. It shouldn't produce that gas that might come from broccoli.
Cooking it would definitely help too,
Yes, not eating it
instead
raw.
of having raw broccoli.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, are there any specific foods? You guys kind of touched on this already, but any specific foods or dietary patterns that can enhance the effectiveness of GLP-1 medications?
Yes. So we'll kind of dive into specific foods. We're looking for more just nutrient dense foods in general, because with the lack of the appetite that comes with taking a GLP-1, some people may not have an appetite at all. Some people may just want to skip meals, not eat. So what we want to do is basically get the bang for your buck, right? So everything that you eat, we want to make every bite count. So we want to focus on the nutrient dense foods that provide nutritional benefits in smaller portions. So specific food items like avocados, salmon, eggs, quinoa, berries, those are all examples of foods that provide vitamins and minerals and also energy that's needed without requiring a large portion size. So those are super nutrient dense foods that you can add to your diet. And another tip that we would say for like a dietary pattern is to eat small, frequent meals. I think we already talked about that. So small, frequent meals. So looking at trying to get like 4 to 6 smaller meals versus, 3 large meals. That can kind of help with the appetite issue. If you are having GI discomfort, the smaller meals will help as well. So shooting for 4 to 6 smaller meals and snacks throughout the day. And then again, making sure that we follow that plate method, like I already talked about, where half of your plate is the veggies, veggies and fruit. Then we have protein, we have carb, and we have fat. So thinking protein, carb, veggie / fruit, and fat. And this will kind of help maintain your energy levels and ensure that there's proper nutrition despite not having an appetite. So again, 4 to 6 smaller meals is kind of the pattern. If you can't push that, starting at a minimum of 3. So at least getting 3 and trying to build from there.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. And now shifting gears from food into hydration, what role does hydration play in maximizing the benefits of GLP-1 therapy? And, I think sometimes when we say hydration, we think like water, let's just chug a bunch of water. Sometimes if you chug too much water, you're kind of emptying out all the good stuff too. So can you touch a little bit on what does hydration mean exactly? And then how does it play a role?
Yeah. Well, water itself is essential for cellular function and metabolic processes. So every cell, tissue, organ in our bodies needs water to function properly. But I mean, like you said, that might not just be chugging water. Like water actually comes from fruits and vegetables too. And so, having a balanced diet, you definitely get your hydration there. But specifically with drinking water, I mean, water facilitates chemical reactions, it transports nutrients, helps remove waste, which is huge while on GLP-1 meds because it does slow your gastric emptying. So that can affect digestion and lead to dehydration. So staying hydrated not only helps with digestion, but it also helps manage hunger cues and prevents mistaking thirst for hunger. And again, it does help those GI side effects a lot. So like bloating, constipation, staying hydrated is important for that. The recommended water intake is about 2 to 3 liters per day, but patients may need more depending on physical activity or climates. But just as a general rule, drinking half of your body weight in ounces of fluids per day is key. So some tips for staying hydrated, drinking water regularly. So to make it a habit, sip water consistently throughout the day rather than waiting until you feel thirsty and then trying to chug it and make up for not drinking. Carrying a reusable water bottle with you makes it easier to drink the water throughout the day. So whether you're at work, home, running errands, exercising, keeping it with you. Thinking about what temperature you prefer your water. So do you prefer room temp or ice cold? Because that makes a huge difference too. If you only drink ice cold water, make sure you have an insulated cup like a Stanley, or get a bottle with a straw, because studies show that you do drink more water if you use a straw.
Yes.
If you prefer flavored water, if that helps you, drink more, then you could add fruit or cucumber slices or even herbs to help increase fluid intake. And then reducing intake of dehydrating beverages is crucial while on GLP-1s. Just because of those reasons we mentioned that, it's easy to get dehydrated. So limiting alcohol, caffeine, and sugar-sweetened beverages is recommended while on the medication.
And like how much, sorry, I'm trying to look at these questions and people are like, wait, slow down. There's so much information you guys are sharing. Let me try to catch up here. let's see. Okay, they're just asking if we can post these. Can you repeat really quick, what is the recommended amount of water?
Yeah, so it's 2 to 3 liters per day, which if you don't know what 2 to 3 liters per day is, it is, what does it end up being?
About 64 to
64 to, do the math, 64 to 97 ounces, something like that. So it's a liter bottle, if you know what like a liter bottle looks like. So 2 to 3 of those, but you might need more depending on how active you are, or even depending on climate. If you're sweating a lot, you do need more water there too. But as a general rule, drinking half of your body weight in ounces is just a good reminder. It's an easy way to remember. So
And when we're talking, I think I see the question. When we're talking body weight, we're talking pounds. So
yeah,
I think the question was pounds or kilograms. So we're talking, yeah, pounds.
good question. Yeah. So let's say you weigh 200 pounds. Drinking 100 ounces of water per day should be at the goal.
And what about things like liquid IV? Susan asked, are things like liquid IV helpful?
Yeah, electrolytes actually are helpful while on medication too in general. With those GI side effects, you might experience diarrhea even. So having electrolytes is important for that. But also for physical activity too. It's easy to get dehydrated while you're on the medication. So having electrolytes to help, replenish the electrolytes lost, and balance the electrolytes is key.
One thing I will say about liquid IV is just watch the grams of sugar in it. So if you can get the sugar free, that's more the one at least I would recommend more of the sugar free side versus pounding the ones that have several grams of sugar.
Yeah.
Looking at the nutrition label too, like even on juices, or like being so mindful about drinking your calories, because it's just like, or a coffee, it's insane how much just like, your everyday latte, it could be up to like 600 calories now with the way Starbucks is making all the festive drinks. So something to keep in mind. How can patients overcome weight plateaus, and how can nutrition help with that?
So this is a topic that comes up quite a lot with clients. Weight plateaus are very individualized. So there could be many reasons why someone is plateauing in their weight. That doesn't even relate to nutrition. So it could be outside factors like stress and sleep. But this is a great opportunity to work one-on-one with a dietitian if you have plateaued and you are very frustrated and nothing is working for you. Because what we can do is look at the entire picture. So what are your eating habits? What are you eating? How often are you eating? Evaluate if it's even healthy to lose more weight. Maybe you're at your bottom and your body is telling you, no, you don't need to lose anymore. Or are there outside stressors that we need to work on, like stress and sleep? So all those factors can kind of impact the weight. So that's a loaded question, but it's really individualized whenever it comes to plateauing.
Yeah, I was actually this morning just talking to Honey about stress. A lot of people know, but I'm getting married this June. And so I actually hired a nutritionist, trying to get in like tip top shape for June and summer in general. And one of the things she asked me when she did my interview was, how stressed are you? And I was like, who cares? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, why would you ask me that? Ask me like, what do I eat in a day? How much am I exercising? Blah, blah. That was like, oh no, the number one focus that I care about is stress, because that's going to lead to your decision making. If you're not sleeping well, you have like your ability to say no to things and cave into those cravings is a lot less if you're tired and stressed.
Exactly. And your nutrition could literally be perfect. You could have the perfect diet, but if you're only sleeping 4 hours and your stress is through the roof and you're working 12-hour days, that can play a huge role in it.
Yeah. How I'm going to pivot really quick if you don't mind. And if you don't know too much about this, it's okay, but how do Epsom salt baths play into this? Because that was one of the things she recommended for reducing stress. I know it's not nutrition based, but One of the things she was like, you should really take Epsom salt baths because it helps with the release of inflammation, like reducing inflammation and just like an overall reducing stress. Do you guys?
I think I've heard that it helps like reduce like tension in your muscles too, like to literally like relax your body. But I don't know a whole lot about it.
Sorry, I deviate. I'm like, just tell me more. Tell us everything. It's okay. All right. So kind of going back, what strategies can patients, if it's not an Epsom salt bath, what strategies can we help develop long-term sustainable eating habits? Like I said, not everyone has a chef. We can't all always make a meal, but what is something that we can do to support that long-term sustainable lifestyle more than like, oh, this is a diet I'm doing from now to this date or whatever, right? How can I implement this for just the rest of my life? Because this is how I want to live.
Yeah, yeah. So with specifically with eating habits, like following that plate method, that we briefly mentioned, that ends up becoming second nature, really. Looking at the plate and then you visualize it, helps you with portion sizes, helps you choose whole foods. Learning how to honor your hunger and fullness cues is huge as well. I think a lot of people, they don't have them at all, any cues. Sometimes trying previous diets or even going into a GLP-1 program, they might not have those hunger cues before. And then while you're on the medication, you really won't have them very much at all. So really spending the time to learn what that means. So when you're tapering off, you can honor those hunger cues and really be able to listen to your body once you're off the medication. That will be help you with success for long term. And then having foods that are nutritious and satisfying to you around to help with potential cravings. So making sure you have those protein and carb combos to increase satiety, help regulate blood sugar. Don't cut carbs. I know it's a lot of people think that cutting carbs is, how you're going to lose weight faster. And a lot of people think that they can cut carbs long term, but that's really not sustainable. You need carbs for energy for your brain and for your body. But really, I think the biggest thing is mindset. I know we mentioned it before, but to develop those long-term sustainable habits with eating, with exercise, I mean, really with anything, it's your mindset. It's not treating this as a diet, but working on your relationship with food and relationship with your body. Just not being so black and white when it comes to food. And really just learning how to have a mind-body connection. Again, I think a lot of people in the past, trying other diets, they were never able to achieve that. Or maybe while they're on this medication, that's even more difficult. But I think really focusing on having a mind-body connection is key to sustainable changes. Because again, it's not just a diet. And we'll talk more about this, but it really is a tool to help you get where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard the term intuitive eating, right? Like just follow your intuition. Your body knows what it wants and it knows what it needs. And it's kind of like creating that relationship, that mind-body connection. One thing is that I've found, at least for me on this journey, has been meal planning. Because we're on the go so much, because, I'm always traveling or like we'll come to WeWork and we don't leave till like 11 p.m. And you tend to starve yourself sometimes, just, you're so in the weeds with work. But meal planning has really been a game changer for me. That way my macros are met. I know I don't have to think about it. It takes kind of that like, oh, what am I going to eat? And then now you're stuck like Uber Eats. It's like, here's a burger or here's some fries. And you're like, yes, that sounds amazing. So can you guys touch a little bit on meal planning and some strategies that would help? Like a Sunday meal prep day? I know a lot of people do Sunday resets, or any tips you have around that?
Yeah. So definitely planning ahead, I mean, is always key. Making a plan for the week, having foods already prepared makes life easier. But it helps be prepared on those busy days when it might be easier to pick up dinner or get Uber Eats. But yeah, having a designated day of the week to be your meal planning day, a designated day for grocery shopping, and then a designated day for prepping, actually doing the cooking and all that. But it is very individualized, and I've actually, worked with people who meal prep is hard for them. I mean, it could be for different reasons. And it depends on the schedule of the person too, or if you work from home. But some people, they just get stressed around meal prep, and I don't know if that's because um, there's a lot of information too out there on meal prep, and people make it look so easy on social media, and it's really, I mean, it's easy, but at the same time, it's not that easy. You do have to put in the work, you do have to plan, you do have to shop, you do have to prep. You actually have to cook and put it together. So like I get that, and I've definitely heard that a lot from clients. So if anyone listening, if meal prep is a challenge for you, um, even having ingredients prepped is really helpful. Just prepped and ready to go. Then you could you can throw something together if you have, let's say you have rice already cooked or you have veggies already chopped. You might not actually have a whole meal together and prepped, because another thing, we've talked about this before too, which some people don't like leftovers, and this is just one of those things too where it just goes back to this being so individualized, and why working with the dietitian is helpful, because maybe it's something small, but if that's who you are, and that's something doesn't work for you and it works for somebody else, then that's fine. Like we'll work around that, and we'll find what does work for you. But let's say you could even buy like pre-cut fruits and veggies if that makes things a little bit easier. You can get those like 90-second grain packs for like rice, or prepping in bulk for rice too is really helpful. Um, Another tip would be like for actually prepping, um, once you do get home from the store, rather than just throwing everything in the fridge, immediately put your fruits and vegetables into containers or immediately slice them up. But get them ready to go, place them eye level in the refrigerator, so it'll make you more likely to grab it instead of having it, shoved in the back. But again, it's individualized. I do think some type of meal prep is really helpful. And I think everyone can for sure benefit from that. So whether it's just, ingredient prepping, having a plan for the week is key. Or even if one day you're going to be eating out one week, having a plan for that too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there was just so much information in there. So as first and foremost, like really setting a realistic expectation. Like you said, those TikTok videos or those UGC where they like stack the little trays, everyone tell me you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Like
yeah. It's so satisfying to watch.
like if only it was that it takes me a solid 2 hours and
Exactly. That's reality.
but
Yeah.
even setting a realistic expectation, like, am I doing this wrong because it took me 2 hours? Like, no, this is just like the video is chopped up. It's okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you said that's just like so valuable is as soon as you bring the groceries home, like organize your fridge, right? Set them at eye level. I can't tell you how many times I'm like at the grocery store, super inspired. I'm going to eat my veggies. I'm on a healthy journey.
Yeah.
And then you go home, you shove it all in like those drawers that you completely forget about. And then it's like, oh, a week goes by and oh yeah, I remember I bought these like snap peas that I was supposed to eat and now they're no
Yeah.
good.
With my clients, I always tell, we always talk about like eye level and doing it immediately, because we make the joke, once it goes in the bin, it like goes there to die, because you forget about it for a week and then you pull it on, you're like, oh, this is gross.
Yeah. It's happened so many times. I'm like, I gotta stop doing this. But
Yeah.
That's such
Another thing, I was just gonna say, another thing that I talk to clients about and that I do personally is taking like an inventory of what I have in the fridge and also doing that for my pantry too. And so like seeing what ingredients I have that I can use to make something that week, or what's going to go bad. So that helps reduce waste too. And then when you do go grocery shopping, you know what you need and you have space in your fridge to store it and organize it, instead of just buying more things and adding more, and that's how it gets lost too.
And everybody's best assistant, ChatGPT, I've heard like you can just throw in the ingredients you have and say like, make me a well-balanced diet,
Yeah.
like, and you can even set how many grams of protein you want to have, how many grams of carbs, and touching on like grams and tracking food. Obviously, that too, like setting realistic expectations of tracking your food is really hard. It's a task. And it's not really hard after you're used to doing it, but the first few times it's like, oh, I need to track this. I need to track this. And I saw in the comments, people were asking if you guys have any suggestions on food tracking apps, anything. I know like my Fitness Pal is one, but any others that you guys suggest?
I honestly usually just for different reasons, but just recommend putting it in the notes in your phone and make, because sometimes apps can, I mean, they're so helpful if you want to track macros specifically too. If you have specific goals with macros and you want to reach tracking something and like my Fitness Pal would be great. But sometimes I do think there's some stress around tracking. Which is a whole nother topic, but some people that, experience disordered eating, which Erin is an expert on, but, and even just from personal experience, tracking it can produce some stress and it can take away from the mind-body connection a little bit.
So I don't recommend tracking specifically just for my patients, because again, mine are a lot of like disordered and it can lead to eating disorders, like a whole thing. But for GLP-1 nutrition, whenever we're counseling, rather than tracking, again, we're looking at the components of everything and looking at that plate method. So that's kind of what we really harness on. So versus how many, we basically teach you what to put on your plate and picking those nutrient dense items so that you're getting the correct thing versus tracking every single little thing that you put in your body, because it can lead to stress, it can lead to disordered eating, and it feels like a diet. And our whole piece is this is lifelong, like this is long term. We want sustainable long term results. We don't want it to feel like a diet. And sometimes tracking can feel like that way. So we don't typically recommend it. If someone wants to do it, great. But if it's like, oof, this is a lot, then we were like, okay, let's stay away from this and let's just focus on what you are putting on your plate and following like those hunger fullness cues.
And I think a good way to track, because I mean, it's easy to forget what you ate too. Like I get that. But I think a good way to track, without feeling the stress is doing the notes in your phone, just making it super simple and brief. It's not taking a whole lot of time out of your day, to put it in your phone, and not tracking calories and macros while on this, but tracking the ingredients, you're tracking the nutrition, you're making sure you're having your protein, carbs, fat, fiber. Another thing I really like, and I know clients like as well, is taking pictures of your food. And because that's like an easy way to document it. You've seen what you eat then. Or you see what you have eaten that day, and you can look at the colors. So kind of more like tracking the balance of colors and what's on your plate. So again, that's a preference too. I mean, some people might not have any issues with using apps and tracking. So that's another thing where it's individualized. But yeah, that was a lot for that question.
Loaded question.
But yeah, there are definitely, I mean, pros and cons. So it's a personal preference, but there's ways to do it that aren't so stress provoking.
Yeah, no, thank you for touching on that, because that is so true. Like, there's one that's like very goal driven, very like short sighted. I have to hit this by this date, but then there's also that like, no, this is just my life. This is what I'm supposed to do. Back to that intuitive mind body connection. I love that. Okay.
You don't want to, you don't want to track your food the rest of your life, that's really not sustainable. And yeah, that takes away from the whole purpose of, nourishing your body and honoring your hunger cues and how you feel. So, yeah.
Also,
Yes. So good. So good. Okay. And now if we pivot a little bit into physical activity. So how does physical activity complement nutrition and support metabolic health during a GLP-1 treatment?
Yeah, so this is a huge one too. And I think this kind of goes back to those misconceptions that physical activity is, not part of it and that you'll lose the weight without physical activity. But it's actually especially important while you're on the GLP medications, the GLP-1s, because regular movement can enhance the effectiveness by promoting muscle preservation. Um, Regular movement helps improve metabolism, and then it also supports weight maintenance when you're tapering off and long term. So the amount of energy your body uses as at rest is your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is, meaning you naturally burn more calories per day just living. So weight loss typically slows down your metabolism, but maintaining lean body mass helps maintenance of the new weight by speeding it up. So a sedentary lifestyle plus poor nutrition will result in excess muscle loss during weight loss, and that can lead to other health risks that affect you internally, as well as physically. So having lean body mass supports living a longer and healthier life. We need muscle for mobility to prevent injuries as we age, which I think is a lot of times, I think people don't think about that while on GLP-1s. They're just thinking about the now and the weight loss and how they want to look from a weight loss side of things. They're not thinking about mobility and injuries and aging and longevity. But that's why it's crucial to prioritize physical activity and proper nutrition while in treatment, because it really is not just about how you look, but it's about how you feel, and it's about longevity.
Yeah, I think it's so important to, like you said, focusing on yes, this is like the short term result or solution or goal, but like really what is the point, right? There's this unrealistic standard that's ever changing, right? There's no, we're always trying to like the norm is never going to be, a set in stone thing. And so if we focus on longevity, focus on how we feel, most importantly, like from the inside out, then everything else will fall in line. The intuitive, the mind body connection, the stress release, the inflammation reduction, all the things.
Yeah, yeah. And we talk about that more, especially physical activity. We talk about that more in our program. But like just the importance of finding something that you enjoy too. Some type of strength training activity or some type of cardio that you actually enjoy. And that can be so many different things. It can be, it could be dancing, it could be going to a class, it could be weightlifting. There's so many different types of physical activity, and that's something too that it should not feel like a chore or something you're forcing yourself to do. That's just, it all goes back to those sustainable changes that you're making um, to see long-term results and you know to feel like it's something long-term that you can stick with and actually enjoy. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, how can patients navigate common challenges such as like social eating, cravings, emotional eating, all while maintaining like these sustainable nutrition habits? Because we're always going to be put in a scenario where, we have to go to the birthday party and there's all the things there, or the holidays are coming up. There's always something. And then not to mention like the social media trends, someone telling you to do this. How do you navigate through and stick to what what's tried and true to you? Because what's tried and true to you might not work for someone else. Like any tips on navigating?
yeah. So a lot of it is we'll talk about mindset and then going back to the basics, right? So if you're in a social situation and Food is there that you typically may not eat. It's going back to how can I fill my plate up with what I know is going to be nutrient dense and is going to, fill my needs. So again, back to the plate. Do we have a protein, a carb, a veggie, and a source of fat? If we want to dive into the dessert, we can, but this is where we're going to listen to our hunger and fullness cues. We're not going to, while we're eating, we're not going to fully binge and divulge to the point of feeling ill. That's not the point of fullness. Fullness is like a happy completion, a satisfaction. It's not the we gorge, then I have to go put on my stretchy pants. So it's that happy, complete fullness. So going back to the basics of let's fill the plate with what I know that needs to be there. And let's honor that fullness cue that when I need to stop, my body is telling me to stop, and that's okay. Talking about cravings with a balanced diet, cravings should typically go away. So I have clients who they crave sugar at night. And whenever we dive into what they ate that day, they didn't eat any carbohydrates. So their body is literally like, I need this. I need sugar. I need carbohydrates. Put it in me. So that's where that craving is coming from. So typically with a balanced diet, those cravings should go away. If it continues, that might be more of like an individualized approach. And then emotional eating, if you have another hour, we could talk about emotional eating. We could really dive in. But emotional eating, it's a disordered practice. It really does need to be looked at individually with a professional. There's not like a Band-Aid for it. There's not a one size fits all kind of thing. But working individually with a professional like myself, to dive into more details related around the emotional eatings, we would look at what it is, what time, what are the triggers, all of those things. So to answer your question, and all this does go back to mindfulness, not having nutrition so black and white, working on a healthy relationship with food and body, having that positive mind-body connection. And if you can tackle this while you're on the medication, it's going to just help you as you taper off and, that successful long-term results that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And so if someone is just starting, what piece of advice would you give them that they're looking to just use the GLP-1 as a tool rather than a long-term solution? Because there's people that want to either microdose or use it as a temporary tool. And then there's people that are like, no, this thing changed my life. I'm here for the long run, right? And again, it's so patient specific. Everyone's on their own journey, but someone that's looking to just use it as a short-term tool, what would you give them? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think looking at it as just that is that it is a tool. It's not the magic solution. It's not going to do the work for you. It does take out the guesswork a little bit, I like to say, because unlike a diet that somebody might have tried in the past, they might be putting in the work and not seeing results, which is frustrating. But you will lose weight while on GLP-1s. But remembering that it is a tool and you do have to put the work in, you do have to change your mindset. You have to build sustainable habits. You have to put the work in to learn proper nutrition. You have to exercise. I mean, find what you love, but you have to exercise. And but doing this the correct way will lead to those long-term results that you're looking for and for managing weight long term. But yeah, that would be I think our one piece of advice is really remembering that you need to put the work in to make this happen for you not to be on medication long term, because I don't believe it's meant to be on for a long term. I think the goal is to get off of it, to taper off, and to be able to maintain your weight with the habits that you've built.
Mm-hmm. And finding that balance, like you said, like you have to move your body. It's all tied together, right? Like we're using this as a tool. But finding what you love, like always in mind of what's sustainable for you and your lifestyle. What do you love? Like some people love lifting, some people love going for a walk, some people love dancing. We have our Pilates princesses and then we have our yogas. Everyone's forgetting about the yoga girls. I'm a yoga girl. So we need to find a cute name for us yoga people.
Yogis.
The yogis. Yeah, we'll go with the yogis. Well, thank you girls so much. Anybody in the audience, if you guys have questions, you can drop them in the chat. I've tried to kind of shuffle through as we've gone. But if you have any questions you would like to ask them, please drop it in the chat. But obviously, this has been like so much information. Hopefully, we can go back and rewatch and take notes. But where can people find you? Social media? I'm sure you have tons of tips and tricks on social media. Or how can people get in contact with you girls?
Yeah, so we have an entire nutrition program. Like when we first started talking about, we're both very passionate about GLP-1 nutrition, and we want people for it not to just be another diet. We want it to be sustainable, long term, get the results you want, and be able to just, live life versus always yo-yoing on a diet. So we've created an entire nutrition program. It's called Your Nutrition Guide to Weight Loss Injections, the tools you need for long-term success. It's an online program. It's self-paced, and we go back to the basics. Like I've said, I think I've said that probably 5 times during this. We go back to the basics of teaching you, we only could touch on things during this hour, but we dive deep into what everything is. We tell you how to eat on the medication, give you recipes, give you a sample meal plan, go into, like you said, exercises and different ways to maintain that lean muscle mass. And then we go into how to taper off, how to eat when tapering off, how to handle hunger cues as they're coming back so you're not just ravenous and eating everything in sight, and then how to eat afterwards so that you're sustaining your results. So we can put that link in the chat if anyone was interested. We are offering, for being an EllieMD patient, using the code EllieMD will get you $100 off of the nutrition program. And then we also have the program that's tied to a 60-minute session with a dietitian. Okay. So Brenda, I believe, posted the link with the code for the $100 off. Our email address is there too if you have questions. And then our social handles are there as well.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you both so much. Everybody, thank you for joining. I hope this was helpful. Sorry, Honey wasn't able to be here tonight. But yeah, hopefully we can speak to you guys all soon. Have an amazing night. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.